Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And if you've ever wanted to know how to go from patent attorney to a multi-family investor powerhouse, then guess what? Today's a conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. I promise. You know what? Because today's guest not only is an investor who was and is focused on assisting investors achieve above market returns, he also has his bachelor's as an electrical engineer. I think he got back around 2001. Maybe he'll tell us a little bit more about that. He got his JD in 2004. And then get this, he got his LLM. And I did go and look this up. This is actually a Legum Magister, which is a Master of Laws. And I'm sure he's going to tell us a little bit more about that. He got that in patent law in 2005. He has over 10 years of experience in acquisitions, rehab, as well as operations of over 850 doors across, and we love this, 3 different states that I'm sure he's going to tell us about. He's a partner at his law firm, and he is also the founder of Laye Investments, LLC. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Jade Laye. Jade, welcome to the program, man.
Thank you, Billy. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Hey, Jade, that makes 2 of us, man. And I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while. And especially for so many of our really busy professionals, they're going to learn so much from you today and how they were able to go out and really have the power of and lifestyles. I like to talk about it. So looking forward to today's conversation, man. And Jade, as you know, I like to ask everybody, all of our guests, at least the same 5 questions. A whole bunch of stuff kind of in the middle. That's just going to be up to you and I and where the conversation goes. But the very first thing that the Going Long family would love to know is, where do you live in the U.S.?
Sure. I'm located in the state of Texas, the great state of Texas, specifically in Houston. So it's in the southern part of Texas, right at the Gulf.
Fantastic. So the great state of Texas. And hey, by the way, Jade, I didn't tell you this earlier, but I used to live in Texas. We used to live in Missouri City. This is way back in
Missouri
the 70s.
City.
Yeah, Missouri City. So,
actually, that's the exact city that I'm in.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
all right. Well, so
small world, man.
Yeah, very small world. Well, Missouri City, Sugar Land. So we'll have to pick up on that in the green room afterwards. So
sure.
Fantastic. And then what is the other thing that the Going Long family loves to want to understand is, what's the most positive thing that has happened to you in the last 24 hours, Jade?
Well, my wife and I just closed on our, this is our second home. So we put it under contract last June. And as many of you know, a lot has transpired since last June. I mean, with lumber and being able to get, materials in and all of that. But it took them a year to build the thing, but, it finally got done and we got closed on it. So that was very exciting.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that as well. And Jade, depending on when people are actually listening to this, they may have maybe listened to us a couple years later. So make sure you get in touch with Jade and find out what's the price of lumber doing right about now. So and see what the good news story is. So fantastic. Listen, man, so appreciate you sharing that with us as well. And as best as I could, I wanted to tell your story at a really, really high level. But one of the things that we love here at the Going Long family and the Going Long podcast is really get a chance to know you, know more about you, and have you tell your own backstory. And one of the things that would be great, Jade, is if you can share with us also too, maybe some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey. And then from there, you and I are going to pick it up and we're going to take everybody from today and then take them forward. So, but give us your backstory in your words, please.
Sure. Well, I grew up in what many consider to be small town Arkansas, the son of a Baptist preacher, and my mother was a high school teacher. Very humble beginnings. I was always taught from an early age, faith in God, hard work, and to dream big. And so that's what I always, did as a kid. And growing up, I mean, we've stayed in your typical, I never felt like we were poor or didn't have things, but I mean, we lived a very humble lifestyle. We had enough, but I definitely could see around me that there were many people that had more. And so as a kid, I just always had a hunger and a drive to be more in life, to become a man that had means and that had money to be able to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. And so that always drove me as a kid and up through school. And I went off to college. I wanted to become an engineer because at that time, that was like the highest paid career that me as a kid in Arkansas knew anything about. And so my approach to a career was always very practical. I always felt like, well, if I have to work, then I may as well maximize my income while I'm at a job. And so I always viewed a job, as more of a means to an end. I was just always a person that wanted to be independent. And so engineering, that was where I first set my sights. And so I went off to school, and I was getting towards the end of engineering school. I was trying to decide what I wanted to do next. And from there, God orchestrated things in my life where I met an attorney when I was about to graduate engineering school that said, "Hey, have you ever considered a career in patent law?" And I said, "Patent law, what is that?" And so that started my journey into becoming a patent attorney. And so I went off to law school and then went back to law school again to get 2 law degrees. From there, I worked at the Patent and Trademark Office in DC for a couple of years. And after that, a firm in Houston hired me out of the patent office. And that was probably 15 years ago. I got married my last year in DC. My wife and I moved here. We've been here ever since, and now I have 3 daughters. And, I'm a blessed man. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. Now, as far as real estate, okay, this was back in 2008 after the housing crash. It really hit Houston area around, I would say, it had to be around 2009-ish or so. And so my wife and I had we purchased a new home when we moved here. And so that was around 2006, I guess. And so when we moved here, we didn't appreciate how spread out Houston was. So everything that we did was on the opposite end of town. And if you know anything about Houston, Texas, a very spread out place. And so you can drive in an hour just one way to get to one end of the town to the next end. And so
hey, by the way, Jade, I think you're being very generous, because I remember some days when it was that Triple H kind of weather. And for those of you who've never lived in the great state of Texas, that means hazy, hot, and humid. And we were sitting in the back of this Datsun, and it was just blazing. I think my skin was like sticking to the plastic in the car, and it literally seemed like it was days, not just an hour. So sorry to interrupt you there, but you just made me go down memory lane, man.
Yes,
it's very spread out. Keep going. Sorry.
Hey, air conditioner in Houston is a must. I mean, it's abuse to drive in a car here. We don't have an AC, man. Yeah. And so we decided to move to the opposite end of town. We were on the north end of Houston. We said, hey, let's move to the south end. So we bought a house. Well, put a house under contract. we still had our current house. And like a week before we were about to close, the buyer bagged out on us. Also at that time, like the bottom had fell out of the housing market. And so it was like, wow, you know, what do I do? I mean, I can't pay 2 mortgages. And so my realtor at the time said, well, have you ever considered becoming a landlord? And I was like, absolutely not, because all I ever heard was tenants, taxes, and toilets. I don't want anything to do with that. But at the time, I did not have a choice. And so I became a reluctant landlord. Okay. But I mean, it actually worked out great. We got a great tenant in. They paid on time. They took care of the property. Also around that time, my father, he kept talking about this book and saying, son, you have to read this. I'm like, Dad, I'm a lawyer, busy. I don't need another book to read. He said, no, son, read this book. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll read it. And eventually I got around to it. And I mean, it completely changed my viewpoint, perspective on wealth and how to build wealth. And it's just like a light went off in my head. And so at that point in time, I said, okay, well, let me get educated about how to become an investor and actually do it the right way. And so that started my journey.
Wow. So there's a lot really we can unpack there. And there's kind of 2 questions that that make me think about the way that you started your journey, right? And one, I'm sure that there is no role better than a husband and father of 3, you mentioned, which is fantastic. And
3 girls.
3 girls. Yeah. Hashtag girl dad. And and you know, there as you were talking, it sounded like there were kind of 2 moments. You got 2 questions in your life that had really kind of taken you down new paths. And that was, have you ever considered, the first time was becoming a patent attorney, which I'm just curious, like when they said that, what were you thinking when it went through your mind, like a patent attorney? And then the second is, you know, have you considered also becoming a landlord? And it seemed like those 2 questions really have had a profound effect in terms of the way that your life has really played out. And I wonder if have you thought about those kind of 2 questions and what they've really meant to what you're doing at this point in your life?
Well, you know, I mean, when I was first got introduced in the patent law, I mean, it's a number of directions I can go into. I mean, from, you know, as a child, I had a very bad speech impediment. And so it's like my whole life up until that point was always geared towards doing things that didn't require me to talk a lot. It's like that was that was like everything. And so I went into engineering partly because, okay, well, this is a job where I can make a good income, but not have to talk a lot. Well, when the attorney thing came up, it was like, wow, you know, attorneys have to talk a lot. So I absolutely don't want to do that. And so, I'm a Christian. And so my faith really informs my life. And so at that time, you know, my father has always been my greatest encourager. And he said, well, son, I mean, anything that you do in life as a Christian, it has to be tied to faith. That's where your life expands, because that's where God has opportunity to work in your life. And so again, my dad has always been my best encourager, and he really encouraged me not to let my speech impediment hold me back from a brighter future, which is, you know, a lesson that anybody can learn and apply, whether they're a Christian or not. It's just not to let fear hold you back. I mean, a lot of the greatest joys of life are outside of your comfort zone, where that fear is at. You don't know where it's going to take you to. But I've always felt like the greatest joys in my life are those times where I had to really overcome fear. And so that was it. I was fearful, but I felt like, well, God would help me. And so he did. And I became very successful as a patent attorney. Now, I will be honest to say, I chose patent law because, it was a very specialized area of law. Again, it's one of the highest paid, specialties in the law. And so that was good again, because again, it goes back to, hey, let's maximize leverage, maximize your time while you're working a job, maximize income. So, that was that. Real estate, that was just a complete, God just orchestrated that. Because I was never interested in real estate at all until I read Rich Dad. And then I saw for the first time a path to building wealth. Even as a high paid attorney, it's easy to get into that rat race where it's like golden handcuffs. Mm-hmm. And yes, you're very well paid, but then it's like your life expands around your income. And so before you know it, you're in a position where you become dependent on always making that income. And I didn't like that, because I've always wanted to be a man that was independent.
Yeah, and when you're able to have that independence, there's just really something about that, and it's difficult to explain, right? Because when you are in a multiple six-figure salary type of a role, most people think, hey, look, everything is fine, everything is fantastic, but you just described it very, very well, Jade, in terms of your life begins to just expand and it becomes that, and so it's until you can actually break away from that my time equals my money and my income, then it's a very difficult thing. And so I appreciate you sharing with us, just really looking at how your life and the things that were happening in your life and the questions that you were asked, and have you considered doing these two different things, and what your previous experience, whether you talked about the speech impediment before, kind of making some paths and you went down that way, or also as you looked at, if I'm going to do a job, I might as well make more money per hour because it's the same amount of time. And by the way, I was almost became an engineer for the exact same reason. And one of the things that you mentioned before, when I grew up, and the people that I was around, typically, they always had lots of things that my parents couldn't afford. And so while I started seeing that, it has become one of, even today, and I talk about this quite frequently, is what I saw as a kid, and the fact that I couldn't actually afford it, quote unquote, economically, it still is one of the main things that helps to push me forward today. Although I've also started realizing that it goes way beyond money. Like, the money is the easy part, because there's a formula to being able to make money. It's how can you also help other people, number one, to understand that, and number two, to really disassociate time with the amount and quality of life that they can live. So I appreciate you taking a moment there to share with us. I do want to get back into your life and the real estate piece as well, Jade. And one of the things that you mentioned is, you got into this landlord. And one of the things that we talk about here, like, this is the Going Long podcast, where we really want to talk about this long distance investing thing. And knowing that you were living in Texas, in Houston, like, the books always tell us, invest where you live. And I fundamentally believe that you can live wherever you want. I've been living in Barcelona, Spain, and I've been investing in the US for 6.5 years. Why do you believe you felt like, what was it that made you feel comfortable to be able to invest beyond the city that you live in? And then now you've continued to do it even in other states, and you're doing it on a different level. You've done it single family and you've done it multifamily. But if you could kind of unpack that mindset for us, would really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, that started after, I bought a house or two. This was around 2010-ish, 11. First thing I did was, after I decided to become an investor, that I got educated on how to do it. And then I started off locally. Okay, here in the Houston area, I bought maybe 7 or 8 houses. And then this was around 2012, 2013, where things really started getting bad in Houston. And I started seeing attorneys at big law firms getting laid off. And that really woke me up to say, okay, Jay, you have to really get serious about this, this second stream of income here. So I thought, well, it's very competitive here in Houston. A lot of investors are here and they're very savvy and they're good at what they do. And I said, well, there may not be as much competition if I look back home in my home state. And that's where I started looking back home in Arkansas. So basically, I went back to my hometown. It's just outside of Memphis. And so I said, okay, first thing I need to do is find a manager and a maintenance guy. And so it's networks, people that I knew growing up, that were able to help me to do that. So the important thing that helped me with going long into Arkansas was first, I had to have a team there on the ground that I trusted. And that's very important. That's critical. And so once I had that team, and yes, I was very fortunate in that my maintenance guy is also almost like a brother. And we grew up together. My dad mentored him growing up. And, he just so happens to be like one of the best maintenance guys probably in the state of Arkansas. He built his home from the ground up with little to no formal training. So, the guy's just a genius with his hands. He can do almost anything. And so that was kind of the foundation of my team there. And then around him, I just built it out.
So I love, and this is one of the things I want the Going Long family. I want us to really listen to what Jade just shared with us. Number one is he recognized that he saw what was happening to people around him that were in similar professions to him, then went and projected forward and saying, hey, look, I really want to be in this same kind of position where I'm only reliant on this. And then as you recognize that there was a very competitive landscape, you talked about competition, but that didn't mean that you stopped looking. You did. Right. You went to the place that you knew that you understood, right? And so one of the things we talk about a lot here, Jade, is really we want to make sure that number one, you know what it is that you're looking for. What type of benefit are you hoping that real estate can provide you, right? When the stuff that the tax benefits, is it cash flow, is it equity build up over time, and all these types of things, or do you want some type of appreciation? And afterwards, you go to the location, which is what you did. You went to a location that you already knew, and most importantly, and this is where I love everybody Going Long family. This is what Jade mentioned. It is the most critical part of being able to go long is making sure that you have a team that you trust of competent individuals. Because then afterwards, Jade, I'm going to assume, and this is maybe help me here, after you knew that you're in the location that you wanted and you had the team that you wanted, then whether they bought the next single family residence on 123 Main Street or ABC Street, I guess it probably didn't matter because you already had what you wanted, where the location was, and your team in place. So that gave you the flexibility to be able to say, this opportunity, is it the right one? Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. Once you have a team in place and my boots on the ground, manager is just a rock star. I got bankers. At that point, it's just a matter of scale. I can buy houses as fast as my team can execute, can clean them up, rehab them, lease them out. And so that just started as far as the houses went. So maybe first year in Arkansas, I may only bought 2 or 3 houses, but then next year it's like 5 or 10. And, just every year just scaled up. And so, and again, there was also a market where, some people think that they always have to invest in like hot areas, but that's just not true. If you know the area and you have a good team, a good business plan, you can make money in real estate almost anywhere. Now, of course, there are certain areas that you should stay away from, but as long as an area is stable, if you buy right, people don't even believe the ROI I was getting on those houses in just small town Arkansas. People just don't even believe it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, especially
yeah,
especially those people that have only been in the stock market. They definitely don't believe it.
yeah, they do not believe it, which is fine. Hey, it's just less competition. So
Hey, there you go.
yeah,
So one of the things, Jade, and really given an opportunity to educate the Going Long family here, you
sure.
mention a couple things really to be able to buy right and be able to look at kind of what is happening. And I'm going to paraphrase here what is happening in a specific location so that you know that it is maybe it's not a tier one market, but it is a market that has good fundamentals. Can you break that down for us a little bit just to help to educate us when you say what are some of the things you could be looking for to know that it is a market that is potentially a place where you want to invest or a location where you want to invest more of your time and potentially energy to start to build a team?
Couple of things. I mean, for me personally, it was, of course, again, having a great team in the area, because even if you're in a good market, if your team is bad, you're not going to do well in that area. So, I mean, that's the first thing. But after that, you basically, I mean, the deal has got the cash flow, and so depending upon the individuals, some of us have a higher cash flow requirement than others, but I mean, the numbers have to work on the deal. So the things that really attracted me was that, hey, I could buy houses houses that were very inexpensive. I mean, I could fix them up and basically pull all of my cash back out of the deals with lenders there in the area. And then after I did that, I was still on it, and the property was still cash flow, say $400 or $500 a month each. And so once I realized I could do that, and that I was a bigger fish in a smaller pond, that's what allowed me to scale. But I mean, but that same blueprint can be applied in like plenty of other markets. So, but you need a market, number one, that's stable. You need knowledge of the area or team that you trust that has knowledge in an area that can advise you. It's always best, of course, if you have that knowledge. But if you don't, you can compensate if you have a team that you trust that has it. But just having that knowledge of where to go and then being able to find affordable investment opportunities.
And I appreciate you breaking that down for us. And because one of the things, and what I want the Going Long family, what I want you to understand is what Jade is talking to us about what he did from a long distance perspective. He got his home knowledge where he was. He got educated, which is phenomenal, right? That's one of the things that you have to do. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well, and the importance of education and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals and those individuals that can take you forward as well. But we're really talking about what you've been doing from a single family residence perspective. Now I want to just pivot really quickly. And if it's okay with you, and I know this is some of the things that you actually share with other people, but that's what you were doing, have been doing on the single family residence. And I understand that still continues to move forward. Is that correct? You still continue to build out in your infrastructure and your team and invest actively in single family residences. And you're doing that in your home state, which is one thing. You also, and this is a fundamental shift in mindset, because you are also a very busy professional, highly educated, highly paid, which a lot of us that are listening, similar kind of boat. And we're thinking, well, yeah, but we're doing this. And so we can't really do something else. But not only are you doing this and scaling out your business, you've also found the opportunity to begin to have be a key partner or general partner for rather large, some would say anywhere between, I guess probably on the low end, 48 to, is on the high end, about 420 doors in multiple different partnerships. So talk to us about what you learned in the single family, and then how you're actually now as a general partner able to use some of those things that you learned, and you're still continuing to build scale at the same time that you're in a very busy, busy and demanding profession.
Sure. And that definitely goes back to your mindset. I learned in single family that it's all about, number one, having great teams, working with good people that you trust. And then number two, it's about leverage. You leverage people around you. Some may think, well, that's a bad thing. Well, no, we all leverage each other. So, since I invest in an area that provides my team with a job, income, okay, and so they also leverage me in that they have that job and income, and they work in a very relaxed environment where basically, hey guys, you guys run it. As long as everything is ran, the money is coming in. Hey, I mean, I'm a very hands-off guy, but the reason I am hands-off is because I trust my team. So that's a very important piece of it. And so the mindset is, first of all, understanding that in order to continue to grow, you have to be able to delegate, and you have to be able to trust people to do things. A lot of people that I meet, especially in apartments, I mean, I meet a lot of A-type personalities where they like to control everything. They like to be in the weeds on everything. It's very hard to scale the way I've done it if that's your mentality. And so that's definitely was a very critical piece, being able to delegate, leverage, and say, hey, you're hired to do a job, perform, and do the job. And everybody's happy. And so that's the mindset that how I've been able to still work a full-time job, leverage up. So.
Yeah, and so this is one of the things, right? And so one of my mentors, Russell Gray, he says it's about being able to effectively leverage the efforts of others. And so when you come at that from a very abundance mindset, meaning that, as you stated before, you have certain skills and or assets that you're able to bring, and the other individuals are able to bring different skills and assets, and it's an exchange of those assets where you can effectively leverage the efforts of others, so that you can move everyone forward together. And so the fact that you just gave us that example is another one of the things that, and it's one of the reasons that you have mentors that can help you and show you things and explain things to you in a way that helps you, continue to move forward. So I appreciate that. And, one of the things, because it's really about being able to transition, but you went back to this as a high paid professional in a high profile type of a role. And a lot of us are here, right? And sometimes I will get questions like, well, Billy, why do you keep investing in real estate? Like, why don't you just leave your job? Like, because you've got all this massive real estate portfolio, at least, and that's what, depending on where you are, you'd say it's big or it's small. And so this is one of the things I always love exchanging, because like I keep doing my day job because I genuinely like it. Like, I'm a happy person. I'm a happy employee. Does that mean I'll do it forever? Don't know. But sometimes there's this mentality of, well, why continue to do both if you can, have your control over your own life and you're still working a day job? Maybe you can share with us. I mean, it's not getting into your life, but there's a lot of us that are in this boat. And so sometimes people say you have to do one or the other. And I'm a big believer of that. It's the power of and. So maybe talk to us why you continue to do both of those roles, at least as of today, would be great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big question. I'll just hit everything kind of lightly, but first off is that, hey, I mean, I like multiple streams of income. That's what it's all about. And so why kill a stream of income if it's still working? I mean, so my job is very flexible. I mean, that's very important. I can work from anywhere in the world as long as I have an internet connection. I can service my clients. It's very flexible. Also, just as far as kind of a, more personal reason is that, I'm probably one of less than 1% of Black attorneys in America where I'm a partner at a large law firm. And so I think I have a responsibility to take advantage of that and to be that and to be visible, for as long as I can, to let other, aspiring young Black attorneys know that, yes, you can make it and be successful at a big law firm in America. And so that's a personal reason. Now, do I have to work a job? No, I don't. I mean, it's a choice, but I mean, I like having choices. And so that's why I can continue to do it. And so that, and plus I can leverage my partners in real estate. I'm very good at raising capital, and I bring other skill sets to, my general partners. And so, people call me all the time, "Hey, Jay, would you like to join us as a general partner on this acquisition? We need a guy to handle legal, whatever." Sure. So it's just leveraging each other. We can help each other. And so.
Yeah. And so and first of all, Jade, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's one of the most challenging questions that we can tackle. At the same time, I think it's really important that we be open and transparent with other people, because there are a lot of people that struggle with this. Like, they feel this pressure because social media is like, you got to quit your job, you got to hate your job, and you got to do all this kind of stuff. And I don't believe that. I fundamentally don't believe that. And you've just given us some more reasons. Number one, if your role will allow you the flexibility, right? A lot of us that are in a high paid sales profession, is no one's asking us if we're working 2 hours a day or 200 hours a day. It's about what are the results that we're able to bring for our clients and for the company that we work for, right? Because nobody's checking when you're working 20-hour days, nobody's there, or when you're working 2-hour days. So that, number one, is to be able to have that flexibility. And then number two, and this actually touched my heart, right? Because it goes beyond money. It's not just about having the money. You are in a role where you consciously want to be able to be seen as an example for other young Black attorneys that are coming up to say, "Hey, look, this is something that is possible." And so what I want everyone to take away from that, from the Going Long family, is it's not just about money. It's about being able to also do the things that you feel empowered and passionate to continue to do. Right. And when you have that flexibility, you can work multiple roles. And so that's what I appreciate you sharing that, Jade. And I want that to really resonate with us. And I'm sure it resonates with so many people, because a lot of times people don't really talk about it. They're afraid to talk about it. But the fact of the matter, we can openly discuss it and share on this in this conversation, I think will help a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's absolutely right. Once you have the money, then it's like, oh, I mean, okay, now what? You need to have meaning in life. And so,
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that. And before we even get into the kind of the Going Long final three, there are two other questions I did want to ask you. And one really has to do with mentorship, community, and doing that in a fashion that is actually paid, right? Because a lot of times people are like, yeah, go out, find people, do this, do that, join, go into this group and do that other group. But very few times do we talk about actually these are groups that you have to pay to be a part of. Yes. I'm just curious what your thought is on that. Number one, recognizing that there's a potential barrier to entry, not just time, it's time and economic resource.
Yes.
And then what are the benefits or actually what's the mindset that's needed when you go there, and what are some of the benefits that you could derive from that?
Well, yeah, the mindset, because I had to do a mindset switch when I moved from single family to multifamily. Single family is more so, hey, man, I run this, I do it on my own. It's my team. Multifamily is more, these are large acquisitions. Okay. We're closing on a deal, 1,300 doors, 120 million, acquisition. We had to raise about 30 million. that you have to have a team around you.
And just breaking that down real quick, because I think sometimes you've talked about it, but I want it to be really crystal clear for people. So you just mentioned an acquisition. It's 1,300 doors, 1,300 doors. And what was the value approximately, the purchase price?
120 million.
Okay, 120 million. And you've talked about being a general partner. Typically, how many other general partners would you have? I don't know if typically, but on a deal like this, because it's not just you as the general partner running this whole thing by yourself, right? There are multiple general partners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on a deal of this size, it can be anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8 general partners, and we each have roles, responsibilities.
Yep.
And so and we can divvy up the work because it's a lot of work involved in putting these deals together, closing them, and then managing the deals. So it really works a lot smoother when it's a good team of, general partners that work well together.
Yeah, perfect. And so I appreciate you just giving us a clear example on that. And then as we talked about, just kind of getting to that whole, literally like the mindset to be able to do that. And then what are some of the benefits that when you look at like a paid entrance into a community or a community or networking or some of the different benefits that you can derive from that?
Yeah, the paid entry, especially in apartments, I think it's important because you filter only the very serious people. In apartments, it's a very capital intensive area. So regardless if you want to be a passive investor or a general partner, you have to have capital or have access to capital. And it's just great to be able to walk into a large conference room where you see hundreds of people just like you that have that. And they have the mindset of, well, I know it costs money. I'm willing to pay that money because I see the benefits of being a part of a group like this. But I'll admit, when I first came to apartments, it took me, a month or so to kind of get over that mentally. But now, of course, when I pay money to a mentor or to join a group, I don't look at it as being a cost or an expense. I look at it as being an investment in me.
And I love that. And I just want to kind of pin that because it's really important. And that's another mindset shift, which is it's not a cost. This is an investment. This is an investment into helping you, just as you would build a foundation for a strong asset. It's a very similar type of mindset. So, and one of the reasons I asked that is because I kind of went through a similar thing. I think when you come from a background where you don't actually have access to capital, you always think, well, I just want to keep that money. I don't actually want to have it go anywhere. But unless you release it and it goes somewhere, it can't actually do anyone else any benefit, which would go back to what you were talking about before, which is continuing to leverage the efforts of others. In this case, it is really making sure that you are, or as much as you can, that you want to continue to move forward. So I appreciate that. And I also, too, one of the things before we get into the Going Long Final Three, I did mention Laye Investments, LLC. So kind of tell us a little bit about who are the people that you are helping today with Laye Investments, LLC, and who are the people that you're helping in these types of ventures?
Sure. Well, I mean, I help, hundreds of families have a very clean, nice place to live where, a lot of families would not have, many options to live in a nice, clean, functional living space had I not provided that. And I keep my properties up and so my residents, they're very happy, in some of the communities that I'm in, there are landlords that don't do that. And so it makes me feel good to be able to do that. Of course, I'm helping my team because I help to keep them employed and feed their families. Also, I give to International Christian Outreach Ministries, which is something that I'm very passionate about. And so the income from my investments go to help, people that I've never met in ways, that I don't even know about now. So that really, that really energizes me to keep going.
And I think that is absolutely fantastic. You get that energy to continue to keep moving forward. You're working, you're in your teams, investing your time, your energy, your capital to provide them with a better opportunity with your residents as well. And also too, and this is me just adding and looking for confirmation that you're also being able to do that by bringing on investors and helping investors be able to get closer to their goals and dreams.
Yeah. And that's, you know, it feels great to have an investor say, wow, Jade, I mean, I'm so glad I invested with you. I mean, this income that I got off this apartment investment, I mean, it's going to fund my retirement. It's going to fund, you know, my child's tuition. It's just great. And then to be able to see the growth. I have some investors who started out with me in my first deal, and maybe they invested $25,000. I don't know. But to see that money has grown to now they're investing, say, you know, $500,000 or $1 million at a time. And to know that I had a vital part in helping them to grow that. I mean, that really helps me. And to be able to help people, you know, become financially independent. You know, we don't like to talk about money, but I mean, we constantly make monetary choices every day. From the time we wake up, you turn on the lights, money, run the water, brush your teeth, money. You constantly make financial choices all day. So money is important, but I mean, it has to be kept in the right perspective. But to know I can help people to generate money, you know, that I like that. That's just cool. So.
It's got to make you feel good, and puts a smile on your heart and on your face and in your heart. So, well, listen, Jade. So a couple things, man. So I know I kept saying I had two other questions, and I think I've asked those two, and maybe actually even asked one. And this is what kind of happens when you have your own show. You can just kind of make up the rules.
You do what you want to do.
So, but listen, it is time for us to get into the going long final three. And the thing is, Jade, I never have ever asked in over 100 some odd episodes of this podcast. I never asked the going long final three unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
I knew you would be. Here we go. So this is kind of our lightning round, and we started with you over in the U.S. and I'd like to bring it back this side now, and I would love for you to tell me what is your favorite European city, either that you visited or still on your bucket list to visit.
I would say my favorite, and honestly, that's one thing I need to do more of is travel. But my wife's encouraging me, so one day we'll get back to it. But for our 10th year anniversary, we went to Rome, and we spent a couple of days there. Wish we had spent more time there, but I mean, it was a beautiful city. I was just very, the architecture, the pizza there. I mean, you know, well, the pizza there. I mean, I just had like a cheese pizza. I'm like, this is like the best pizza I've ever had. I'm over here, you know, in America eating pepperoni and all this other stuff. I'm like, this is just cheese.
Yeah, it's just basic, just the basic stuff, and it's
right,
fantastic.
And it was great. So yeah.
So Rome, and it's a city I love as well. So another vote for Rome. Get lots and lots of votes, which is fantastic. And next time when you come back though, Jade, you got to make sure you stop in Barcelona, man. I'll show you a couple different places as well. So let's make sure we stay in touch that way.
Yeah. And one other thing about Rome also, the drinking fountains in the city. I mean, that was where I'm from. You just don't drink water out of a public like fountain. But there, and the water was great. It was cold, which I never could understand how it stayed so cool. But yeah,
it's a secret. It's a trade secret.
Beautiful
they may
place.
not. It's something that's patented. We can't tell you about. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, so appreciate that. So another vote for Rome, and then the second question of the going long final three really has to do with something that I've seen with a lot of different really successful people, Jade. And the thing with successful people is it seems that one of the things that is key about making them successful is that they typically only make one mistake in their entire trajectory as they're Okay. I've done this. I get it wrong every single time. Every time. I always mean to tell the right way, but I always mess it up. So that's kind of a joke. So the thing is, really successful people have something in common. Like, we all make mistakes. We all have learning opportunities, whatever the case may be. But one of the things that I have noticed is that really successful people do it in a different way. And it's more than the mistake that happens or the learning opportunity. It's what's the lesson that they took away and can incorporate in their life. So can you share with us really the lesson, not necessarily what happened, but what is the one lesson that you want to share with the Going Long family today that's really going to help us learn from a mistake that you made in the past? That one lesson.
Oh, wow. Well, I hate to be a big cliche here, but I mean, the lesson I've learned from failures is, I mean, don't stay there. I mean, you have to get up. Your mentality has to almost be, number one, stay humble. No matter how experienced you think you are, you will continue to make mistakes. That's okay. It's human. We are not God. We will make mistakes, but you need to be humble. I've learned to always communicate with my investors. If there's a mistake that I've made, you own up and you say, here is the mistake. This is what I've learned, and this is what me and my team are going to correct it. So I would say I've almost learned to expect mistakes will be made, and when they are, to be open, honest, transparent about it, and do your best to fix it, learn, and move on.
Fantastic. And make sure that you're not staying there, as you said. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. And it is part of what happens. I mean, we are all human beings and mistakes can happen. And so, so just make sure you don't stay there and you continue to move forward, be transparent, communicate, et cetera. So, and this is really bringing it home, Jade. This is the very last of the Going Long final three. And it really is to finish by feeding our minds. So I would love for you to share with us, what is the one book that you would recommend to us for the Going Long family?
One book?
Just one.
From an investment perspective, I mean, I'm sure.
Whatever you want, man. Yeah. This is literally anything you want it to be.
Oh, well, anything?
Anything.
Okay. Well, hey, man, I have to go with the Bible. That's that book. Even if you're not a Christian, read the book of Proverbs. It's a lot of just life lessons, a lot of very practical things you can apply in your life. A lot of investing principles are there. A lot of just life principles. It's just a book of wisdom that you can apply in all areas of life. So that would be my one.
All right, perfect. So we were going to go with the Bible, and you mentioned look up book of Proverbs, check it out. And I think we can do that. We'll include that in show notes as well. So Jade,
all right.
Jade, I'm going back to the beginning of our conversation, and I'm thinking about being the son of a preacher and a teacher, and really being able to see a number of things, being surrounded by maybe other people that had things that you didn't. Maybe you had different experiences that they didn't, but that has also really helped to define some of the different decisions that you made along your journey. If I think about where you wanted to start in terms of the compensation per hour, you already knew that before you went to college, thinking about it as an electrical engineer. Then from there, really to go and to get your LLM your JD first, to continue down that track, and then your LLM after that, and really then being open to later on when your dad was mentioning a couple things and gave you that little purple book. And I've got it over here, over my shoulder. If you guys aren't watching this on the video version, by the way, you need to check us out on the video version. You can see the new installation. But from there, really, then you've continued to go down that path, and you've seen and not been afraid to do things differently, to create new opportunities for yourself and create new opportunities for your family. As you mentioned before, as a girl dad with there are three ladies at least, and your wife that are at least watching you, right? And so you've continued to go down this path, and you're impacting other lives positively. You're continuing to have that abundant mindset, and so many positive things that you've shared with us. And also, you've shared and been real with us. There's not everything's perfect, right? And it is what it is. And at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, and I know so many other Going Long family members are thinking, I want to find out more about Jade. I got to get in touch with him. I want to find out what he's doing at Laye Investment LLC and things like that. So help us understand, what is the best way for the Going Long family to get in touch with you, to find out more about what you're doing, and see how, they can learn more from you directly?
Sure. The best way is going to be via email and Facebook. I have a website, but it's not completely set up yet. So again, busy man. But my email address, I don't know if it'll just be in the notes of the show, or if you just want me to give it now?
Yeah, but we'll do both. We'll do both because this is
Sure.
a way for those of us that are writing things down and ready and writing. You get ready because Jade's going to leave it to you, and we're also going to include it in the show notes for those of you on the treadmill or cooking or whatever you're doing.
Sure. Well, Facebook, of course, just look my name up, Jade, Jade Laye, Laye, Houston. I mean, I think I'm the only Jade Laye here, so easy to find me. Also, my email address is Jade, Jade Laye, Laye at layeinvestments with an S.com.
All right, Jade.Laye at layinvestments with an S.com. So fantastic. Yes. Listen, Jade, this is, like I said, man, I knew we were going to have a fantastic conversation. I knew that people were going to be able to learn so much from you, be able to connect with you. I really appreciate you taking your time to invest with me and the entire Going Long family. And I just want to say thank you very, very much.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And Jade, if you give me just a couple, like probably 30 seconds, I just want to say a couple things to the Going Long family. First and foremost, thank you once again, Going Long family, for investing your time with Jade and I. Wasn't he awesome? I mean, he just left so much real life experience and shared, and it really helped us understand that you can be a very, very busy professional and build the life that you want to continue to lead and make an impact on so many different people. So take today's episode, share it with like 2 or 3 other people. You can be that person that is the one that's making a positive impact on somebody else's life. And that's something that's also going to bring more like-minded people to the Going Long family, which is something that we all want, to be able to grow together with other like-minded people. And also, too, just take a couple seconds and leave an honest review of today's conversation. You know, take out your iPhone just really quickly, and I don't ask for a 5-star review, just an honest review. Let us know what you liked about the conversation. What would you have liked to hear? So that also is great feedback for both Jade and I. And you all know that I go through every single one of these reviews to continue to make the podcast even better for you, whether that's the video version for those of you that are watching us or the audio version for those of you that are running on the treadmill. And so, up until then, I'm really, really looking forward to welcoming you back to the very next conversation. And until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very, very much.
Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.